Cheryl, go for it too. It looks like online we have Andrew Chorney, Christina Kumar, Katie Fairbanks, Maddie Scott, MCAT. And in the room, we have Commissioners Barrow, Slotnick, and Strohmeyer, Brian West, Allison Franz, Chris Lounsbury, myself, Cheryl Hartman, Ann Hughes, and Griffin Smith.
Okay.
Buckholz just joined.
Okay. Is there any public comment on items not on the agenda? Not seeing any. We'll move to the, oh, wow, very short consent agenda. Anything need to be discussed?
How did I get so lucky to be
I
here?
was going to ask the same question.
So the short answer there is you'll recall that the city did a remittance as part of the fiscal year 2025
Yes, I
budget
remember that
process.
part.
And during the time when the remittance was approved, Dave was still the chair because the chair does not change until January.
Nice.
So all of the documents which they have been working on next door for the last 7 months, it did not seem appropriate to then make them go back after we went through 6.5 months of trying to get them finalized to make them go back and change Dave. So we're just asking that Commissioner Strohmeyer, since he was the chair when the actual budget was.
I bet he's going to do it. I'm just saying, I bet he's going to say
You gonna
yes.
put money on it?
I think he's going to agree.
I'll second that.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Well, back to you, Chris.
Thanks, commissioners. So when you adopted the fiscal year 2025 budget, part of the remittance was used to help fund the emergency shelter at Johnson Street. And part of it was originally put aside for the purposes of constructing some permanent restroom facilities at the temporary safe outdoor space. The city has generously agreed to donate the restrooms that will no longer be used at Johnson Street to the temporary safe outdoor space, which means we do not need to construct those restrooms. So what you have before you today is a request to use the funding that you had set aside for the construction of one of the restrooms to help fund the housing sprint inside the city limits, which the fiscal agent for that is the United Way here in Missoula. And so this agreement is between Missoula County and United Way. And there is a slight correction to the motion that's there, which is to house the housing sprint fund. It says housing solutions.
Oh,
It's a sprint fund in the amount of $125,000, which is the money that was originally set aside to construct
From a TIF remittance.
Still from the TIF remittance. That is in item 1.
Perfect.
Oh, I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah,
That we approve the agreement.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion or public comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Oh,
Griffin,
sorry,
this is a
Griffin, yeah.
complicated one, so I hope you have a question.
Yeah, is this all of the remittance money from last year? Just, is there any remaining?
Yeah, so there is about $100,000 remaining from the remittance that's currently uncommitted and will go into the fiscal year 26 budget.
And can you kind of break down how the remittance comes to the county?
7 months after the fact.
I mean,
Yeah, did you?
you mean sort of how do the mechanics of it work?
Yeah.
So you know how TIF districts work.
Mhm.
So money is held back from all the taxing jurisdictions. And if the city chooses to dip into that fund, they have to give to all the taxing jurisdictions what they too would have received if that money hadn't gone into a TIF district. So we get our chunk.
Schools,
the
fire
schools get
departments.
their chunk, the state gets their chunk.
Right.
Is that? Chris was probably better on the details, but that's just the general.
Yeah, no, that's exactly correct. And so in this case, it's money that is generated by the residents inside that district, be they business or homeowners and others. And it's the difference between the original year that the tax increment district was formed and whatever the value in that has grown during the course of that. So this is funding that was collected inside the city, and as part of the FY25 budget, you had directed that money to be spent.
There's an important thing in there is that for people who live outside of city limits or outside of city limits, outside of this district, you may say, well, why is the county spending my tax money on this goofy housing sprint? We're not. The only money being spent there was put into the fund from people who live inside that district. So no one from Sealy Lake, none of their tax dollars are covering this. No one from Clinton, no one from West Valley, no one from East Missoula, only the people who live inside the district within which the J Street shelter existed.
What was the county portion, like total?
So it's a little over $1 million. It was, if I remember right, about $1.1 million that was remitted to the county.
Okay.
And then just under, it was about 853,000-ish that was put towards the shelter. And then 125 was
This is for
set
the
aside
bathrooms?
for the bathrooms, and now
Okay.
will be used for the housing sprint fund.
Okay, and then you said there's
A
100,000.
little over 100,000 left
Okay.
to get up to the million.
And the county can use that money for whatever it wants in that
Correct.
district.
Yeah, no, it does not have to be
Oh, no.
inside that district. It is.
That's only
limited to
because
general.
this is a remittance. This has come out of the
Oh,
district.
thank you, okay,
This is,
yeah.
this is
So there's no strings attached.
There are
You
no
can-
strings attached.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just one more question, yeah, obviously this is a big thing that's happening in the city. You guys have any thoughts on, why it's important to chip in right now?
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
One
Well, it
thing,
has to get
the
done.
city is within Missoula County.
Yeah, for sure. These are these are county residents. And this is not a perfect solution, but it's kind of the least worst or most best that we have really limited money and want to get these folks in the most stable situation possible. For sure, it's not going to work for everyone, but it's a whole lot better than just closing down the shelter and saying you're on your own.
Well, can you ask your question again, or maybe what?
Yeah, as you said earlier, this is discretionary money, it was set for a bathroom, but it could be spent on anything. I'm just wondering, why
Oh,
you guys
okay.
think it's important to spend it on this housing sprint?
Well, I guess the other way to look at it is folks who are houseless or homeless are going to end up somewhere. And the city limits is not a hard and fast impermeable boundary. So it could just as easily be the case that folks who are displaced are going to be camping outside the city limits somewhere. And again, the city is part of Missoula County, so it's to all of our benefit across the county to see if we can get these folks housed.
And I think
Again,
the
there's no-
timing aspect too, like this is such an immediate, sharp need, and we have such a limited amount of time. I mean, I don't know, it's a crisis and emergency. I mean, it's just, and this money is available, so.
And again, no dollars from Sealy Lake or Clinton or West Valley.
Yeah.
Or even right down the street here where I live.
Exactly. Only coming from this one little district.
All right. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you mind rephrasing your question again? No, just.
Okay, are we good? Did we vote?
We did.
Okay, thank you, sorry. Adrian. Back,
I was not sure if Adrian was able to join,
Okay.
so if not, I'm happy to
take it away.
briefly cover this. So commissioners, what you have before you is an agreement with Mountain Line, MUTD Mountain Line. And this is the first agreement, a formal agreement, but we've been working, Adrian Shop has been, Adrian Shop has been working with them on different ways that Mountain Line might be able to help during emergencies, including with things like evacuations and other things. And so this agreement basically just kind of formalizes that and will allow us to do some resource sharing during kind of some of our planning activities around disasters and emergencies to kind of figure out some of the ways we might be creative and
Is this
helping with this.
different? Do we tweak anything from what's been done in the past, or?
So this is the first time we've had an
Okay.
actual formal agreement
Okay.
in place. We have amazing partners who always step up during times of emergency. That's always been the case, Mountain Lion and many others. This is just kind of a formalized agreement, which we've not had in the past, kind of allowing us to kind of more formalize some of those different ways and think about this. I think this is all part of what's coming about as Mountain Lion and its executive team looks at different ways that they can engage in the community than they perhaps have in the past, as they've, are kind of looking at multiple different things, including partnerships with the University of Montana and others. And so I think this was just an opportunity to kind of formalize that agreement and think about it in a new and different way. Again, Mountain Lion and others always step up when we actually have time. So this is just kind of formalizing that relationship that's always existed. So.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something that I guess I've kind of taken for granted, and I did, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I would move that we approve the chair to sign the transit service agreement.
Any further discussion or public comment?
Oh, Griffin's got a question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Quick question, does this kind of stem from maybe the windstorm last year and kind of planning after that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it comes from that, and also just as we're going through, they've been looking at updates to some of the policies and things that we have, including the emergency operations plan and other things. So I think it kind of has come up out of both of those. Yeah.
Is there like a, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but can you give us like a little scenario? Like, how do you want to like plug this in?
I was gonna say, I don't know that I want to go that far into Adrian's world because I don't know exactly.
They haven't made the plan yet.
Yeah,
This is-
okay.
This is formalizing a
Right.
get together.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but we could certainly talk.
They'll make the plan.
Okay. Formalizing and get together, that
They'll
makes
they'll
sense,
the
thank you.
plan.
Okay. Well, gosh, legislative updates.
Do you want me to go
Yeah,
first?
yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna let,
Yes.
if you don't mind going out of order, he can cover those
I
two.
think so. Did we vote on that?
Oh, gosh, okay.
I know we
No,
can.
we did, because I made the
I
motion.
was gonna say, I know we had a motion in a second, and I'm pretty sure.
I
we
made the
Okay.
motion. But did
Any
we
further
vote?
discussion?
No, I don't know that we voted.
All in favor?
Aye.
Worst case scenario, we voted twice.
Correspondent, Brian, sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to jump and go first, give you notice of two lawsuits that our office will be handling. The first is Kevin Payne Senior versus Missoula County, DB 2580. That's here in State District Court. Mr. Payne is claiming wrongful arrest, racial profiling, and defamation. We have to file an answer no later than May 5th, which we intend to do. At this stage, it will likely be a motion to dismiss. I don't have all the details about Mr. Smith's underlying matters. He's currently under the Department of Corrections, one of their facilities, but before he was moved to one of the facilities, there was a separate felony charge that was ultimately dismissed by our office. But we'll be defending the case and filing the response by May 5th. Second case to give you notice of is Darren Webster versus Nurse Kelly and Sergeant Mosen. That's CV 24165. That's pending in federal district court. This is the third amended complaint that Mr. Webster has filed, which has finally gotten through the court's pre-vetting process. This is a kind of a twofold claim about his medical care and being dissatisfied with the recommendations of our contracted provider. We will be tendering that claim to WellPath to defend their nurse. And then he has added in one of our 10th Officer Sergeants, Cole Moden, being dissatisfied with how Sergeant Moden handled his grievance process. So that is when the course and scope of Sergeant Moden's duty. We'll defend that. We have until the 9th of May to acknowledge service, and then we need to file a responsive pleading by June 10th, which will be a motion to dismiss.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I know this will come as a huge surprise as we jump to the legislature, but we're going to talk about taxes.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about.
So it's finally.
Yeah, I know. We never talk about property taxes at all. So we're going to talk about two bills, House Bill 924 and House Bill 683.
863.
863. See, this is dyslexia has set in for me pretty hard with the numbers on bills now. 863. Those appear to be the current two vehicles that are most under consideration by the legislature. They've been amended in their respective committees to look and feel extremely similar to each other. And they contain components of many other bills, including the homestead exemption, both.
Is that the 117? Or
No, so that
17
would,
is the 4%
That's-
revenue.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be the one that came out of the governor's property tax force, which is
31.
HB 231. And then the other bill that it contains pieces of is Representative Thane's 155, which is the adjusted tax rates based on value of homes. It also includes remnants of a one-time property tax rebate in both cases in order to be able to address the fact that the Department of Revenue would not be able to implement something at this point in time to impact this upcoming year's tax bills because it's just
Enough time.
it's just too late. There's just really not enough time. They've already done appraisals. And then, yes,
I was just going to say, correction, 924 is getting put into SB 287.
oh, and yes, as I was saying, this morning it was, yeah, it's like I said, it's fun. It's being pulled into it. So there are several bills right now. 924, I think, has been tabled now.
Mm-mm.
No, that one's still alive.
It's on the floor today.
Oh, okay. So 924 is on the floor today. All right, but it's also been pulled into
287,
287. So Senate bill, House bill, Senate bill.
Senate bill.
Senate Bill 287. So we have alive on both sides of the floor two bills that look, or three bills that look remarkably similar to each other. So it seems like some version of that is going to be the final bill.
Are they all a homestead exemption with graduated tax rates?
They all include pieces of the homestead exemption and graduated tax rates in them, at least as of now. And then this idea of a one-time rebate.
Are there real powerful fundamental differences between any of them?
There are what I would call minor tweaks and differences from them. So at least in my memory, the way it looks right now, we have a serious division going on over the idea of primary residence, because there are many homes, for example, that sit on state trust land, which would not qualify for it. There is concern over the ability to apply for the homestead exemption and it being online, and the fact that people who are elderly or others may not have access to computers to be able to apply for the homestead exemption. And they're using the fact that many people did not apply for the rebates during these last couple of years online as the kind of reason why they think that will also be the case for the homestead exemption. There's a divide over whether it should really be primary residences or all residences, whether they're primary or secondary or Airbnb or others, from communities where that is a significant portion of their tax base. And then there are issues around how they address the city of Billings, and Sunburst, which have mill levy caps that are different than 15, 10, 420 in their city charters. So they have lower caps than what would exist under 15, 10, 420.
How did they pull that off?
It was just part of the charter when their self-governing powers granted the charter.
Which predated the caps?
I don't know if it predates the caps, but it is lower than, which you can always be more restrictive than state law. You just can't be more permissive than state law.
Why would they choose such? They're very frugal.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I think there was a serious.
So, and I feel like I should know this, apologies that I don't, but the SB 2 117 combo, where is that?
So 117 has passed, Senate Bill 2 has passed. Senate Bill 2 has language that says if the governor signs 117, it voids Senate Bill 2.
So we will be living with the 4% revenue cap if the governor chooses so.
If the governor signs that piece of legislation.
But won't this all just kind of like all go into free conference, all of the?
No, this one.
Those bills have passed.
That one is not the governor's.
The property tax bills will, I think that's why they're keeping so many versions alive, is that they're attempting to get some sort of agreement where they can at least get to free conference and hammer out the final.
Governor, are you up to speed on the 117? It is pretty complicated.
Kind of waiting for it all to settle personally.
Yeah.
Seaborn is in Helena.
Greatest act of economic development vandalism ever, I think, to come out of our state government.
Yes, I think it's 542. I think I
Yeah.
told you wrong. The
Disincentivizing economic.
I was talking about
That's
yesterday's.
changes.
Oh, and capping our revenue at 4%, which means
We just had another
newly
random horse get
taxable
born on the ranch.
property, we don't collect from that full amount. If collecting from them would push us over 4%. So why would we want to run sewer, water, road grid out to an empty area? If a whole bunch of houses were built, we wouldn't be able to collect tax revenue from them. We would have to provide them services by taking from others. So we're disincentivized for encouraging economic growth. And small counties that are really excited when they get things like tank farms or pipelines or solar farms would be disincentivized for creating the infrastructure that would encourage those types of developments, because they would have to provide services but not collect revenue. So it's an anti-economic growth look at property taxes.
Would it,
And it's most likely going to be law.
yeah, like the Y water project, would that kind of play?
It could, depending on the funding sources, it absolutely could.
There's now a third House agenda for today, just FYI.
So we're definitely in the sprint end of the legislative session with roughly 10 days left.
Wow.
9 days? 9 days left. So
We're in single digits now.
I think we are officially in single digits.
So has the governor signed much, or does he kind of do that all at the end?
No, they get signed throughout. I will admit we don't track when signatures happen, so once it's kind of done on the legislative process. So there are several steps that have to happen, even though they've formally been voted on the floor as done before they actually go to the governor. So both the leadership of the House and Senate have to sign the bills, and they have to go to, I think it's called enrolling before they go to the governor.
So there's quite a process. What happened with the bathroom law?
It is currently enjoined in district court, so that means they cannot enforce it.
So the governor signed it and then
The
it
governor has signed it. It was challenged by the ACLU of Montana in District 4, our district. It's before Judge Veneta, who issued a preliminary injunction, and then yesterday, it sounds like, continued the injunction until he issues his final ruling sometime later, sometime next month.
Both the state and the ACO jointly agreed to extend the TRO that was going to expire yesterday.
Okay.
So that Judge Venata could actually draft a full order, either making it permanent during the pendency of the litigation or ending it. But he's doing that because that is immediately appealable. And so they want to be able to appeal the full legal reasoning. And don't quote me on this, but I want to say it was May 23rd was the deadline for his order to be
and
issued.
then this lined up. This is
Guaranteed.
Any other legislative updates?
And we'll all be excited when we get to the last day.
Oh, are we taking bets?
I am not.
Oh, come on. Griffin, what do you think? One sunny day.
Can they go over 90 days?
They cannot.
Not?
Not without going into special session.
I'm saying all the way to 90.
What day would that be?
Next, I think it's a week from
May
Friday
2nd or something.
or Saturday.
all of us, they'll just
I think
use.
it would be Monday.
Be Monday? Okay. Does it make it through? Okay.
May
right.
5th.
It's terrible.
Abrupt. That's-
It will not be as abrupt now because now they have to debate it on the floor. It's now debatable where it was previously non-debatable. It's just a vote.
Oh.
Nothing else they'll be talking about.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of your Tuesday.